Hey everybody, welcome to RiverCity-Media Beyond the Booth. I'm the Howard Channing along with Phil Harris there. And our special guest tonight is North Mountain head football coach Jay Lipscomb. Coach, if I call you David, just overlook it because of the University of the David Lipscomb University and all that. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
overlook that if I do that. Thanks for joining us tonight, Coach.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all having me.
Let's get into a little bit that what we talked about right before we went on the air. You canceled the spring to do the fall because you have some players that's kind of nicked up and some that's playing golf. So if you would kind of give us a little details on that.
Yes, sir. We got and we knew there was a good chance we weren't going to have our golf kids. But like I said, there's about 5 of them on there that really help us and some of our better players. And so between them and then some other guys we were like, okay, they'll fill in some spots in the spring and could be role guys as we get to the season. They were nicked up, had a kid tear his hamstring, a couple kids, like 2 had knee surgery, and they were cleared a little, but like not cleared for full contact, and we really didn't feel comfortable sending them out there. So we ended up just talking about it and feeling like it was better for us to pick up the fall jamboree. So we picked up that fall jamboree and decided to cancel spring training. And we've been doing the 2-hour-a-week thing where we're getting out on the field and doing a little bit. And then we've been hitting it in the weight room pretty hard. So I think it's been good for us. And I think we're going to benefit a lot more by being able to have our whole team there and do that do that extra week and then the fall jamboree.
Yeah, because if you go ahead and do it now, then you might have to backtrack a little bit and kind of do some other stuff. And makes sense. We got Dylan Barbie already saying ham slices.
Oh my goodness, he's a fool.
We would say this is your first time being on here, but you made a guest cameo appearance back when Coach Barbie was on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We like to have a good time, all of us, and most of the coaches here. We all get along really well, so we all like to have a good time with each other.
And something that Phil he joined us a little bit late, but what you was telling me was the coaches were together playing basketball today.
Yes, sir. We did our workout after school, and then we went in there and played a little 5-on-5 for a little bit, get a little exercise. So it was probably low-quality basketball, but we went and played a little bit.
So was it full court or?
No. Maybe back in the younger days, we would have been. If it was full court, it'd have been real ugly. So we just played a little half court. Some of the younger guys, which I mean I'm pretty young, but we got a couple guys that help out that are in their early 20s, and they kind of wanted to play a little full court, but we passed on that. So.
All right, good deal, Phil. I'll turn it over to you and let you have a coach for a while.
Well, Coach, of course, that's one good thing is that y'all playing basketball 5-on-5. That means you got probably a pretty young coaching staff. In some schools it's been around a long time. These guys aren't going to get out and play very much basketball. But at North Mountain, y'all got a lot of young coaches, actually.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We've got a pretty young staff overall. I mean, heck, even our admin, Miss Phillips is in her early 30s, and I just turned 30. Coach Barbie's in his mid-20s. Our wrestling coach in his mid-20s. So, we got a really young staff in all our sports, and like I said, we have a good time and get along really well. And then in our football staff, we got a couple guys that are older than I am, but we also got some younger guys helping out, and got some guys volunteering that are in school as well and wanting to get into coaching, so they're helping out. So, we got a pretty young staff, and we have, like I said, try to have a good time and get a little bit of work done too.
Yeah, of course, being younger like y'all are, you can kind of relate to the players naturally. Of course, you took over for Eddie Kirby last year. This is your second season. Went 5-6, lost in the first round of the playoffs to Tuscaloosa Academy. But has Coach Eddie Kirby been an asset for you transitioning yourself into a head coaching job? Because there's a lot to learn when you take over a program than just being an assistant.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was actually Keith Kirby. Eddie's his dad. Now, he was the head coach here. He was the head coach here a while ago, but he's been around as well. But yes, sir, Coach Kirby, I've been able to ask a lot of questions and find out anything. anything I needed to from him. And like I said, having him on staff has been helpful. Really, our whole staff from all the sports and all the coaches in football and then all our admin. I mean, it really is just like a family, and just like I said, it's all about family. And, we try to do it the right way. But Coach Kirby's been a big help. And then, I lean on him, lean on all the assistants. And then, obviously I got people that I've coached with before at other places that I kind of lean on and call for advice and things like that as well. So.
Well, in past times, North Sand Mountain's mainly been known for if somebody speaks North Sand Mountain, it's basketball most of the time.
Yes.
Coach Kirby, he added some consistency to the football program. He had several good seasons, and he kept them competitive. So this program is not just a basketball program now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think 10 or 11 straight playoffs, and then Coach Kirby in the past 10 years has taken them to the quarterfinals twice. So a lot of success and a lot of consistency there.
Yeah, what has it meant to the community to have that new stadium? I know that's nice for the kids to be able to run out through the tunnel. That had to be a big, because it looks so much better when you drive by North Sand Mountain High School with that stadium.
Yes, sir. They've really enjoyed it. I kind of came in at the right time and got a little lucky. When I ended up interviewing here, they were telling me about it, and when I first came, all you saw was just a big rock pile, and they were clearing everything out. But it's been good. Obviously, Mr. Davidson, kind of went to bat with us there, or went to bat for us there, and helped us get all that. And it's been really nice. And we try to take care of it and hopefully put a good product on the field. We got the nice stadium and everything. So I think our kids really enjoy it as well. I hope they do, because it's, like I said, it's nice to be able to be in high school and get something new and kind of state of the art. So it's been good. It's been good. So.
Yeah, adds a lot of interest, because anytime the kids got something to take pride in, they're going to take a lot more interest in, like playing football. Well, Coach, I want to go back. You were at Clark County. I know you were alumni of Springville High School and went to AB.
Yes.
Before you left to come here, you spent two stints at Clark County High School. You was a defensive coordinator, and you applied for the North Sand Mountain job. There was several that applied, and a lot of times, a lot of coaches are promoted within, or they're local, or they're former North Sand Mountain coaches. But this time you kind of come from the outside and come in. Yes. So and Coach Kirby said that he thought you was the perfect fit for the program. What do you think made you stand out over the other candidates?
I don't know exactly what made me stand out. Like I said, I guess it was just, the right timing. God kind of put it there. I really never planned on applying. Like I said, spent 2 stints at Clark County. When I went back for the second time, went back to work for Coach Luker, and then he retired after that first year there. And a couple of guys on staff applied for the job there, and we thought we had a good chance at getting it. And then neither of us got it, and somebody new came in. But ended up, like I said, just was kind of disappointed at first when I didn't get it, but just kind of decided, all right, let me stay and learn and try to improve myself and learn and see what it takes to be a head coach. And so I really stayed and tried to learn that year, and really probably had one of the more fun years I've had coaching. That second year at Clark County, even though, Coach Luker, I'd probably go work for him today if he called for a job. He's just one of those people. But even not having him that year, just really had a good time. And we made the third round, and I saw the job come open. I can't remember. It was maybe after our first round game or leading into our first round game. And Coach Luker's son actually sent it to me. He was at Thomasville at the time. He had worked with us at Clark County for a couple of years, and he sent it to me, and he was like, this is up, kind of up your family's way. Why don't you apply? And I just kind of told him, I was like, I'm not really looking right now. I may look at stuff after our season's over. And he was like, ain't nothing wrong with looking, for a upgrade. He's like, it ain't going to happen until after the season, but there ain't nothing wrong with looking for a step up. And I was like, and I've done that before. And I was like, no, I don't know. I just was having a good time. I was like, I just want to focus on this year. Then we kind of forgot about it. And then we got beat in the third round by B.B. Comer that year. And then Coach Luker's son had applied, and he called me. He had an interview set up. And so I was like, well, if you're interviewing, I'm not going to apply. Well, then he called me, I guess it was like the day before he was supposed to interview, and he was like, look, my wife says it's too far, that we ain't going up there. He's like, so I'm going to call and tell them I'm not coming. So I was like, well, I guess if you're going to do that, I'll send it in and just see. And then sent it in and came up to interview. And to be honest, it was the least nervous I'd ever been in a head coaching interview, because I was just kind of like, I enjoy where I'm at. I enjoyed being defense coordinator this year. Thought we had a chance to be really good again. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. And just kind of, told them what I was about, what I believe, and how I wanted to do things. And I guess it was just a good fit. I just think, we just kind of meshed well. And they, the big thing I said in my interview is I'm not necessarily looking for a certain position. I've just kind of got to where in my career I want to be around good people and be able to make an impact and have a good time while doing it. And so I guess that just kind of resonated with them, and they felt like I was the guy. So,
well, I'm going to say that probably religion has a lot to do with it. I know you're a faithful man, definitely, and a very big family man, and that fits the community of Higdon, Bryant, and all that area. Big family people that are religious, and I think that may be part of that, because that's a great way to unify a community.
Yes, sir. I try to be. I don't know that I live up to it very well most times, but I do try to be, and even if it don't seem like it sometimes, I definitely try to, lean on God during decision making, especially big decisions and things like that. So,
yeah, well, definitely. Well, we all fall short, so it's not just it's everybody's that way. And so, well, I want to talk to you about this. Your wife, Dakota. You talked about that. The other coach's wife didn't really want to move far away. So I guess she was all for it. And also I want to talk, I want you to talk about her and what she means to the family. But you've got two young ones. And I know Bronx, he's the cutest thing.
Thank you.
He is adorable. And then you've got a newborn, Brooklyn, who's just about 2 months old now. Talk a little bit about her and about those two, because I know they're the apple of your eye.
Yes, sir. Well, my wife's great. She's really, just kind of, before we ever got married, I just kind of told her, this is kind of my career path. I feel like this is what I was called to do, and made sure she was on board with it. And it's probably good that she was on board with it, because if she wouldn't, I'd have probably stepped off board and went with what she wanted to go to. So, but she's been great. Like I said, we're from Springville, which is the Birmingham area. And when we first got married, I was already down in Clark County, and we went there. And then she came down there. Then she came back to the Birmingham area with me when we went to Mortimer, Jordan. And then probably one of the harder moves we made was the year leaving Mortimer, Jordan, which, like I said, I had a coaching change down there. It was just a lot of it just kind of got crazy that year there. And but heck, we had just bought a house. I don't know if not many people know this. We bought a house in Springville. And then I think it was like 3 days after we bought the house, Coach Luker called me and was like, hey, defense coordinator, that we're opening that spot back up. If it's yours, or it's yours if you want it, you just let me know. And so really against the wishes of a lot of family and a lot of people. And heck, I thought it was crazy too, but I just, really prayed about it and felt like that's what we were supposed to do. And she wasn't necessarily excited about it at first, but she kind of sat down and was like, well, let's pray about it. If you feel like that's what we're supposed to do, we'll go. So heck, we bought a house and put it up for sale 3 weeks later, never stayed a night in it. And so that was, talk about everybody looking at you like you're crazy. And so she went back down there with me. And like I said, we stayed and did 2 seasons. And then this opportunity came, and we both, this one we were both in a little more agreement with, and family was a little more excited. So it was a lot easier decision to make. But she's been great. Obviously, any job like this takes a lot of time, especially in season. You're gone, later a lot of times. And, a lot of coaches will say stuff like, in season, she's a single mom. And I told my wife, if she ever feels like that, then I'm going to leave the job, because I love football and I want to win, but I'm not giving up my family time, and I'm not sacrificing that. Obviously there are sacrifices in it. You're going to spend a little more time away, but I'm not staying up here till 10:30 at night every night and not getting to put my kids to bed and things like that. So, but obviously it takes more work from her. Heck, it's a lot of work just probably taking Bronx to the games and trying to keep him contained as he's running around. And now she's going to add a baby on top of that with Brooklyn. So she's great. Obviously holds us all together, and love her more than I could ever express. And so I can't say enough things about how great she is, just as a coach's wife and the things she does. And then the kids, that's just there's nothing more fun. I said it the other day to some of our younger coaches, and me and Nelson Poor helps out with us this year, and his little brother coaches and some of the younger guys that help out with them. They probably thought we were a little crazy. I was like, guys, I get having fun doing all that, but I'm telling you, there's nothing more fun than having kids, and it's literally the most fun thing in the world. It's stressful at times, but it's when you come home and you're stressed out and mad because of whatever may happen at practice or something, and that little boy opens the door and sprints to your car door and jumping in your arms. I mean, there ain't nothing beating that. And then, like I said, my little girl's 2 months old, so she ain't at that point running and jumping yet. But like you said, there's just nothing like it. So,
is Bronx old enough yet where you can carry him to the field?
He can't. He's really improved on that a lot. Probably about the past 3 or 4 months, he can come up here sometimes. I probably don't as much as I should. I'm trying to wait another year or two because he's a little wild. He likes to wander off and stuff. So if I start getting into something else, he'll wander somewhere. But he's been up here a few times, and like I said, doing a lot better. He listens a little better now than he did probably about 4 or 5 months ago. So I think probably in a year or two he'll be able to start spending a lot of time, probably come to some summer workouts and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, because that'll be good for him, but it'll also be good for the kids on your team because they get to see you as a father, and that's inspiring for them. Anytime you can have kids around the program, it's good for the older kids. Absolutely. Because it helps them see that they're actually role models for other students in the school.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. That. I think we said it a few times this past year. We did different things where a different church sponsored our pregame meal every week and came and gave a devotion. And, we did that. We kind of talked to amongst coaches and anytime that we can let the players see, they get to see us day to day. They see the mistakes we make. They see when we act probably like we shouldn't and things like that. But then they also get to see you can do those things and you can still be a good husband, a good father. They can see that even though you got all these stresses, where your peace comes from when you're talking to them, when you got different men that they see are happy and living good lives, and they're talking all about the same thing when we're talking about God and Scripture and things like that. So, like I said, I think I told you before, I don't live up to it near as often as I should, but part of that, it's good for those kids to see, like, okay, he struggles in this, but where does he get his peace from and things like that. So, yeah, it's good to let, the players see you in all these different roles.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to go back and talk about the 2024 season. Of course, you went 5-6, made the first round of the playoffs. It was a region that was very competitive. Of course, Pisgah was head and shoulders above everybody else, but everybody else was, pretty well on an even keel. There were some big battles early in the season. Of course, a couple of teams kind of fell off toward the end, but one thing I want to go back to, and I think that, possibly an opportunity to have hosted a playoff game in the first round was that Sandrock game. Do you ever go back and think about that game? That's one I thought, God, North Sand Mountain, I just thought for sure y'all were going to get that one.
Probably more than I should. I've probably watched that film 50 times, maybe even more. I watched it. I think Monday I've actually got some notes from the Sandrock game right here on the board. Looking into next year, but heck, it may be different now. Their coach stepped down, I think, Monday or Tuesday of last week. So some of that could have changed, but definitely, we rolled in 2-0. Probably thought we were a little better than we were, had not been tested yet. And very competitive game. And then they kind of jumped on us a little bit at the end. One we really, really let get away. I feel like, one I felt like I didn't do a good job of having us prepared. we thought were really good. And, you go into games like that when you start playing a formidable opponent, you really got to be focused on all the minute details and all the little things. But like I said, rolled into that game and really kind of felt like we laid an egg. But, we still had opportunities past that. We had worked our way back and then had another opportunity. If we would have beat Pleasant Valley, we would have got the 2 seed and hosted as well, and then had a chance to play Pisgah for the region championship the next week. Now, I mean, they were, like you said, they were probably head and shoulders better than everybody in the region last year. And obviously Luke Gilbert was probably head and shoulders better than everybody in the region as well. But rolled into that one. And again, it was fall break week and some different things. And I probably didn't handle it well as a coach and I was prepared. And we go out in the first half and didn't play terrible. We moved the ball, got inside the 20, I think 3 or 4 times in the first half, but never scored. And then we gave up 3 touchdowns. And it was all on big plays. I think on like a 3rd and 9, they had a 64-yard run where we missed 2 or 3 tackles. Another 3rd and long, we bust a coverage, and a dude's running with nobody within 20 yards of him. And then I think on like a 2nd and 7, 2 of our DBs ran into each other, and the guy's wide open. So we go down in the half 20-0. Well, then we come out the second half and outgain them. I think it was like 197-25 in the second half, and end up having a chance to win. Well, then we're down, I think 20-14 or something like that. And then they end up scoring, but heck, they didn't even drive the ball. We got one play, they run out of bounds. They call face mask and a late hit on the same play. They get 30 yards of penalties. Then we get them to 3rd and 12 after that. And then we jump off sides twice on 3rd and 12. So it ends up being 3rd and 2. Then we hold them 4th and 1. Then they get the 4th down and they're inside, or it's 1st and goal, I think inside like the 8. And then we end up holding them to 4th and goal, and they score on 4th and goal and go up 26-14. Then we scored again, ended up losing 26-20. Almost had the onside kick right there at the end too. But, you were proud of the fight and we didn't give up. But also, you're sitting there looking going, my goodness. They were a really good team. But when we played our game, I really felt like, we could have won that game. It was one that kind of got away. So there was a few games last year that I really felt like that we probably should have found a way to win, and we didn't. And that's kind of hoping going into this year we get a little – I do a better job of getting us prepared, and we show a little more mental toughness. And those close games that can go either way, we find ways to come out on top of those.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's good and bad in that you learned a lot from that game. The kids did, you did. And so going forward, you'll look back to that game and you'll be able to caution them, hey, guys, we don't want this to happen again. And, and they'll move on from that, because I guarantee you next year, of course, I know you got a couple of games before them, that will be circled on the calendar to where you really want to come out and play well in that game and make a statement.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's definitely, I won't get into it all in here, but it's something we'll definitely be fired up for. And I hope the kids are, because I'm going to be fired up for that one. And like I said, I'm going to do a better job this year getting them prepared. And as a coaching staff, if we ever lose, that's what it comes down to. It's our job to prepare them. So, if a team that's better than you beats you, that happens. But if you lose to a team that you feel like that you should be able to compete with, then it comes down to, did you have your kids prepared? And, mistakes we make, are we coaching it? Or you're either coaching it or allowing it. It's what I've always been told. So, you got to find a way to have your kids prepared to win in those close games and big moments.
Well, Coach, talk about the season overall, kind of go back and hit some highlights, but I also want you to talk about the players from last year who contributed. Tell about those ones that made, of course, all region and all county and all that. Because that's big for them, because I know if any of them that's listening, I want to hear their names. But just kind of give a synopsis of the season and then talk about the kids who contributed.
Yes, sir. Definitely had a lot of ups and downs. Like I said, started out really well, then stumbled against Sandrock, and were able to kind of put it back together for a little bit. Lost a close game to Valley Head out here in the rain in a non-region game. Like I said, it kind of built our way back. Had a chance at the 2 seed against Pleasant Valley, and felt like we let that one get away from us. Then beat Section that next week, and then, obviously Pisgah, or it might have been Section and Pleasant Valley. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then obviously Pisgah they were really good last year and struggled in that game. And then week 10 going in, played really well on offense at times. Didn't feel like we had the defensive performance we needed. Like I said, didn't do a good job of having them prepared for what we were going to face, and they ended up getting a lot of single wing and running straight at us. And then, kind of had a tough draw with it. Really any seed we would have finished in. We had a tough draw. If we would have been the 2 seed, we would have drew Soligent, who ended up playing Tuscaloosa Academy in the semifinals last year because they were the 3 seed in that region. And heck, TA only beat them 20-13. So there really wasn't a great draw if you didn't win the region, and even if you won the region, I can't even remember who finished 4 seed in that region. But you go back and look at their games. Every team in that region had some quality wins throughout the year. They were loaded, so it was going to be a tough draw either way. But like I said, would have loved to host a playoff game. Like I said, highs and lows. Obviously some of the big moments from the year, beating Cedar Bluff in overtime, having our kids step up. They scored to start overtime. I think they scored on the first play and went up 7. And then our offensive possession in overtime was crazy. Had 2 or 3 penalties, almost scored, got another penalty. The next thing you know, it's like 2nd goal from the 25. And Landon Keller hits Cade Davis over the top of the safety in the end zone. Great throw, great catch. And then immediately, we called a timeout, and the kids were like, "Hey, let's go for 2. Let's end it here," and ran a little shoot slant. And we thought he was going to throw the slant, and we thought we had it open. But Keller, when he made a great throw, he said it kind of reminded him of he in his mind was thinking about when Renfro scored the touchdown against Alabama in the national championship. They ran the slant, and he throws it to Jackson Burgess, who makes a great catch and was able to win that game. Turns out to be a really good game. If we don't win that one, we don't make the playoffs. And that's only week 4. But, it's what you tell the kids, that all the region games can matter, especially as it comes down the wire. But like I said, obviously had some lows. Felt like, we weren't prepared at times, and feel like I'll do a better job of getting us prepared. And, I think as a coach, I feel like I'll see big growth between year 1 and 2, just because I know what to expect more. I know things I need to do better. And then obviously every year you're going to learn and grow and know stuff you need to do better. But feel like there's definitely a lot of changes I can make. Some players that did a good job last year, obviously losing Landon Keller, 4-year starter at quarterback, probably the smartest football player I've ever been around. I think all season we may have missed a line like 3 times on offense, which does not happen in high school football much. Now, we didn't always execute, but we were going to be lined up right because Keller got everybody lined up right. He knew what everybody was doing on every play. He knew every formation. If we worked a formation or a play week 1 and then we came back week 7 and was like, we were thinking about doing this, you could tell Keller the first day at practice, and he could get everybody lined up without installing it. Obviously had a very talented arm, like I said, hard worker, leader. So losing him, that definitely hurts, and it sucks to lose him just because, he's somebody you like having around. He's just an overall great kid, great person. I'm hoping, I think he may end up at Northeast. I'm hoping he sticks around and helps us coach and helps with our junior high team as well. And then a lot of your other big players are coming back. Most of your all region and all county players. Jackson Burgess was all county and all region. He'll be back, could end up playing quarterback for us. If he doesn't, it's going to end up being receiver and safety. He started at both those last year. He's also our kicker and did a really good job with that. Cade Davis was co-athlete of the year in the county last year. He'll play some linebacker, running back, receiver. He'll be a senior this upcoming year. He's with golf right now. He did a really good job. Jack Johnson's also with golf right now, and he missed about 4.5 games last year. He had a chip bone in his hip. He didn't play the year before. He came back last year, and you talk about a guy that really has potential to play college football. Jack's got that potential, and again, probably one of the better kids I've ever been around. Works extremely hard. Our team chaplain called me the other night. It's probably like 10 o'clock, asking if I meant to leave the lights on at the field. And I was like, I haven't turned the lights on. So he rolled back up here to check, and it was Jack with somebody who's up here throwing and getting some work in. There's no telling how many times I've had to ride by at night to get something, and Jack's in here working out, so we expect big things from him. Most of our O-line is coming back. You lost Dallas Cummins, who was an all-county, all-region player for us. But most of those guys are coming back. Hopefully, it's one of the places we need to improve in the most. So I hope we can do that. But trying to think, is there any players? I mean, there's all kinds of players. We got some new guys out that didn't play last year that I think are going to help us. Jackson Langster played baseball, and he's going to do a good job for us. In the few days we've been on the field, he's looked really good. Had guys, younger guys that are freshmen right now, going to be sophomores next year, like Aiden Haggard, have worked extremely hard. Kid like Colton Smith ended up starting at guard for us in the playoff game last year as a freshman, was hurt most of the year. Expecting big things from him on the offensive line. So I'm probably forgetting some names, but, got a lot of guys that contributed last year and have worked really hard, and we think will contribute again this year. So
I guess what you're saying is, last year maybe the team at times was probably a lot coach driven because, kind of learning the process, learning what your do's and don'ts and those type of things. But I guess you're looking for this team to step up and be more player driven. And with that, you're going to have more success on the field.
Yes, sir. It's always good when the team's player driven, and I need to do a better job as a coach, putting them in that position. And I think we kind of sat down and I talked to the kids a lot about self-evaluation. You need to constantly be evaluating yourself and where you are really in every aspect of life. But as a football team, evaluate what you're bringing to the team and, how you can help the team and where you are. And so, I think I try to do that. So after the year, let's sit down and do some self-evaluation. This is what I need to get better on. And you got to be honest with yourself. And sometimes it ain't always fun. But definitely, realized I needed to do a better job. And one big thing is we realized we needed to increase the intensity everywhere in the weight room, when we're doing our conditioning on the field, things like that. And I feel like we've done a good job of increasing it. And the kids, for the most part, are buying into it. And, we've talked about, obviously, the more you put into something, it's going to mean more to you. I think we've compared it with the kids to, you're buying stock. Every day you work hard. Every day you're in here breaking a sweat and doing extra and really struggling. You're kind of buying stock in something. And when you got stock in something, it hurts when it's not successful. So, you've been around those teams that you lose and everybody's all smiles and, hey, we had a fun time. And, but usually the teams that buy in and practice really hard and work out really hard and have done all the things it takes to be successful, when you lose, it hurts. And it should, because like I said, you've put a lot of stock into it, bought a lot of stock into it. So when it fails, it hurts. And, at some point in the year, every team but one's going to fail. But, if you don't put the stock into it, you're guaranteed to fail. So we've really tried to raise the intensity and hope that we'll see the fruits of that this year.
I'm going to ask you one more question. I'll let Howie ask a few because I'm sure he's got a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
Your staff, you can't do this without a staff. Tell us about your staff and what their roles are so far.
The biggest thing about our staff is we've got, some of the best people I've ever been around. These kids are blessed to have these guys here. Like I said, we're all together. Like I said, we've talked about it before. It's all about family, and our staff's kind of like a family. And so obviously our defense coordinator, Coach Hall, has been here for a long time. I think he got here in 2003. He does a really good job, and he's all about doing whatever it takes to win. They've been doing things a certain way for a long time, and he kind of sat down with me this offseason, and we looked at our personnel, and we're making some changes defensively. And he was like, it's different to make changes, but, he said, I'll do anything I can to try to win. So Coach Hall does a great job. Probably one of the smarter coaches I've ever been around as far as X's and O's and loves to watch film, watches more film than anything, always has a good game plan. And he's always going to have a great idea of what we need to do if we can execute it. Coach Schrader was the offense coordinator last year. He'll be in his second year this year. Again, really, really good coach. Does the offense, O-line, and D-line as well. And then probably does everything else in the world. Heavily involved in his church. Cuts grass, has a grass cutting business on the side, does that nonstop. He's got 2 kids as well. They're his youngest one's Bronx's age. So he's dragging them around everywhere. The dude probably works more than anybody I've ever seen. I mean, if you want to go do something, you want to go play golf or something, it's hard to get him to ever do something because he's constantly doing something. So probably one of the hardest workers we've been around. Something breaks around the field house, or like when the bench is needed, new screws and everything, he came and did that. So he's kind of a do-it-all guy. So like I said, he calls the offense. Coach Shoemaker, George Shoemaker, he did our junior high last year. He's going to be up on varsity full-time with us this year, helping with the O-line, D-line, and really, I mean, we like to call him a scout team guru. I mean, he gets over there and he lets Coach Hall, like if he's on scout defense, he'll let Coach Hall get them lined up, and he'll just run his mouth the whole time and get everybody fired up, and get the kids on offense will be ready to fight him. And it does good. I mean, it raises the intensity, and he does a good job. And like I said, just anything you need done, Coach Shoemaker will do it. Like I said, really good coach, really smart. Also won Teacher of the Year this year, so a really good math teacher as well. Let's see. We've got Coach Ogle, coached our linebackers last year, and was our special teams coordinator. He's still going to be our special teams coordinator and help out with linebackers some. He's also going to run the junior high program for us this year. And you know, obviously he does a really good job, heavily involved in a lot of other stuff, heavily involved in his church as well, like all these guys. But really good coach and even better person. I hope I don't forget nobody. I'm trying to name them off the top of my head. They're going to be mad if I forget them. Guys helping out this year that wasn't here last year, Nelson Poor. He does real estate, but he comes and helps out, really helps us, gives us a boost in the weight room. Very smart. Hard-working coach is going to help us tremendously with our linebackers this year. Played here, was a good player here. So he's helping out. His younger brother, Niall Poor, is going to help out with us as well in some different roles. Also another guy that comes and just, hey, how can I help? Anything I can do, just let me know. Let's see who else helping. Kenny Holman, he's been helping for a long time. He, again, does whatever you need. Equipment breaks on the sideline, he's going to fix it. I start getting into the referees a little too much, he's going to pull me back and calm me down. He helps with our junior high a lot. It's called the defense most of the time with the junior high, so he does a really good job there. Let's see, Brett Clark, that's our wrestling coach. And again, just do anything you ask. Really gets after them in the weight room. You know, we have certain parts in our weight room where we say, all right, it's Coach Clark's turn. And it's a surprise for the kids. And I would say they love it, but I think they kind of dread it. Coach Clark gets after them pretty good. Like I said, he's a wrestling guy, been 3-time state champion. He's a little soft at times. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, he gets after it pretty good and gets the kids fired up. So he's a big help. Let's see. Make sure I didn't forget anybody. If I'm forgetting somebody, Dylan Grant's helping out this year. His dad's Chad Grant was coach at Ider last year. Obviously, he left Ider, so Dylan's going to come and coach our quarterbacks this year. Extremely smart, young coach. Probably going to be a head coach by the time he's, 30 for sure, if not before that. One of the smarter guys I've ever been around, has already helped our quarterbacks a lot over the past, few months that he's been here helping out. So he does a really good job for us. I think that's it. I really hope I'm not forgetting anybody because they're going to be mad at me if I am. And then, heck, Coach Barbie, I've been trying to get him to join the staff. He hangs around all the time anyways. So I've been begging him to join the staff, but he won't. So, but he goes out there at weights sometimes and gets them fired up and gets after them pretty good. So.
I still got a few things I want to ask, but I'll let you ask a few.
Go ahead, Phil. You know my stuff is not X's and O's, so
Okay. Well,
go ahead and keep them in the hot seat, and then we'll get them in the recliner where you can relax a little bit.
well, I
Yes,
do
sir.
want to ask. I didn't get to see you playing it all. Offensively and defensively, what do you run? I know you like to throw the football some, but I know you also want to be a physical football team.
I mean, we're spread run mostly. Mainly just because the spread formations are pretty simple and keep it simple on our kids. But if we're going to be successful, we're downhill run, and we turn that spread as we get a little better into it. We'll get under center a lot, and it turns into a lot of stuff with wing T principles. But just downhill run, mostly gap scheme. We will run a little bit of zone. But if we're going to be successful, we're hanging our hat on gap scheme stuff. Power, counter, lead, things like that. Like I said, I'll be honest, Coach Schrader has taught me in throwing the ball because I would assume just run it every time. That's probably the Coach Luker in me being around him. I'd assume run it, 50 times a game. And if you're good enough, you're going to beat teams doing that, run it downhill. And if we ever get to a team where we can pound on them a little bit, I get pretty excited. Usually when you're good, you can pound on teams. So that's really what I'd like to hang our hat on. But we will throw the ball a bit. We got some good receivers, like I said, Jack Johnson, Cade Davis out there. Makes a big difference. So we do try to spread it out. Defensively, I've been a little bit of everything. I think, it's hard to say you're going to be a certain scheme defensively because it might not match your personnel. When I was at Clark County, we've been 3-4 slant front. We've been a true 3-4 sit in there and play gap responsibility. We've been 5-2. We ran a 4-3 my last year at Clark County mostly. But we've been a lot of 4-3 here. But that entails having guys that's going to go sit in a 1 or sit in a 3 and be able to fill the gap and not get moved. We lose a lot of size and we got smaller, quicker guys. We can sit and say we're running this and this is what I'm going to run and this is my philosophy, but that's going to get you beat sometimes because you just ain't got the players to execute. So I think you got to fit your players. You got to fit your scheme to the personnel you have with the players. So probably be a little more 3-4 this year. Move the front a lot, slam them. Hit some blitzes off of it and everything because we've got some really quick guys and we do have a couple big linemen, but most of our guys and our depth is with our smaller, quicker guys that I think would benefit from being able to get up front and move. So, I guess a little bit of multiple. I don't have a scheme that I'm like, hey, stuck to. We got to do this. Offensively, I feel like you can be, a little more systematic and stick to a system because you can really tailor any system into what you want to do. But defensively, I think you just gotta, you gotta put your guys where they need to be and use your personnel wisely.
Yeah, well, I think in today's football, it's changed a lot because you've got spread offensively, so it makes you be multiple on defense. Because back in my day, we run a 4-3, but our defensive front took up 5 guys, so linebackers never got blocked, and you just don't see that as much in high school football anymore.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about this. Of course, when you was at Clark County, how does football differ? I mean, football's football, but how does football differ here than it was at Clark County? Is there more community driven programs? How does it differ down there than it does up here?
There are certain programs that are more community driven. At times, there was a lot of community support in Clark County, but it was usually the same people that were doing the community support down there. We had the Anderson family, the Stedham family. They did a lot of things there, and they were, very heavily involved. But then you also had a lot of people that weren't involved. Like you said, at the end of the day, it's the same. Now you go through Clark County and go up and down Highway 43, you're going to probably see some of the most physical football in the state. So that would probably be the way that it differs is just, just how physical it was. And I probably shouldn't say this because probably make a lot of people mad up here. And it's probably not true, but it's just how we thought. There were times, those 3rd round runs we made at Clark County, and then Our first year in 2A, got upset, shouldn't have, but got upset in the second round at Isabella. And there were times we sat and looked and we were like, man, the 10 best teams in 2A, we feel like 9 of them are in the South. And then there's Fife, who was really, really good. But, but we felt like that's just how competitive the South was when you went, right in that area between Clark County. You had B.B. Comer have a extreme run of talent. You had Highland Home, who had, 5 or 6 Division I players, 5 or 6 SEC players on one 2A team. When the year Clark County won state, they beat them in the 4th round. And they had both the Falk brothers, who I think are both at Auburn right now. One of them was probably Auburn's best D lineman last year. Ayrton had a really good run of talent as well. So I just think it gets real physical down there. Not all of them are 2A. If you go on 43, you go right there. Right off of 43, you've got Sweetwater, who's won, 10 or 11 state championships, and probably 1 or 2 in the past 10 years. Demopolis is right off there. They've won a state championship, made a lot of runs. You get to Thomasville, they've won 2 or 3 state championships and always deep in the playoffs. Then you get to Clark County, who's won a state championship and made 3 or 4 deep runs over the past 10 years. Then you go to Jackson, who may be the best team in the state, 1A through 6A right now. I think they lost 1 game last year as a 4A team, and it was to Saraland by 7 points to open the season, and they won the state championship by about 65 points last year. And I was looking – Jackson's a little small school, don't heavily recruit. Most of the time they play with the kids right there. And I think I was looking at the ESPN Top 100, and there was like 7 kids in the state of Alabama. No school had more than 1, and then 4A Jackson had 3 of the ESPN Top 100. So that's right there, 10 minutes from Clark County. Then you go 10 minutes from Jackson, and you run into Leroy, who's won state 2 out of the last 3 years. It's just there's a lot of good, really physical, really talented football right there in that area. So it was kind of cool to get to compete against all those teams and luckily have some success against all those teams. I know Jackson's on a really good run right now, but we'll say the last time I got to coach against Jackson, we did beat them 33-8 when they were ranked top 10 in 4A. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they're flat good right now. And I know what you're talking about is there's so many individual great players on all those programs. Teams that go 4 and 6 are extremely good. In the South a lot of times. I think the teams up here kind of depend on. We've got to slow things down, play physical. Make a team play 4 quarters, because a lot of those teams, if they get out running on you and get to sprint, they're going to bury you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. Like I said, a lot of good teams. Heck, I forgot to even mention Linden in there. They've won state over the past 5 years. It's just there's a lot of good players and a lot of great coaches down there that I think talking to some people up here, I think they underestimate that sometimes. Really great coaches down there. Like I said, I work with Stacy Luker down there. He's probably my biggest mentor in coaching. He's won, I think, 7 state championships. In my opinion, the best coach, to ever coach in the state of Alabama in high school football. Now, I know there's been a lot of great ones. Obviously, Coach Benefield is right up there as well, and probably just a biased opinion because I worked with Coach Luker. But, 1 year when we were at Clark County, we came up and played Fife, and, we were talking about it. Between the two of them, there was like almost 600 wins combined on the sidelines. So, that was pretty cool. You had Danny Powell down there that's won 5 or 6 state championships. That got to coach against him a couple times. So, really good teams, physical teams, really good players, and really good coaches down there. And, there's a lot of great coaches up here and great players as well. I just am not – I've only been here for a year, and so I'm really getting to experience how good some of the teams and players are up here. So,
Yeah, they just some solid programs, that's for sure. Of course, you're going to see that year now. I want to talk about your football schedule, getting back to your team. Talk about the football schedule coming up. It's the same as last year, except it's flip-flopped home and away. Yes. You look at that schedule, and really you look on there, and you're not going to say, well, we can definitely beat this one. You feel pretty good about some games. But there's really not a team on that schedule you don't feel like you can compete with. I mean, every one of them, you got an opportunity to win.
Yes, sir. I mean, I like to think, we don't go into any game thinking we don't have an opportunity to compete. That's just, if you do, I probably don't want to be around you because as a competitor, even if you got to lie to yourself, you better convince yourself you got a chance to win. You're going to find a way to win. But, like I said, you also don't want to underestimate any opponents. Looking at the schedule right now, a lot of really good teams and a lot of really great coaches and some new coaches. I mean, you open up with Woodville and Eider, and I know they both struggled a little bit last year, but like Eider, Coach Clements comes in, probably one of the more energetic guys I've ever been around. Fantastic coach. I mean, that's going to change a lot. Sandrock's obviously looking for a new coach. Cedar Bluff, very well coached. Gaston just hired a new coach. I don't know as much, about him at the moment, but the little bit I have looked at it, really good coach. Valley Head, Coach Hammond does a really good job. Respect, the program he's run, how strong and physical they are. Then you go section, Pleasant Valley. Coach Edwards Riley over there at section is one of the better people I've ever been around, very helpful and a fantastic coach. And, they're just going to continue to get better with him. Pleasant Valley, Coach Nix has done a really good job, had the most successful season that they've had since the 80s last year. It was the first time they'd hosted a playoff game since 1986 last year. So he's really building it up. And then you roll into Pisgah and Susan Moore, who are both very well coached. Coach Gilbert takes over at Pisgah. You lose Coach Pruitt, who did a great job. And then you may have hired a coach that is just as good, if not better, that does a really good job. So you're not losing anything there. So, I mean, like I said, you want to think you got a chance in every game, and you just got to slowly work on you. You can't sit and look at the schedule, and you just got to get better every day. And no matter who you're playing or where you're playing, I like to tell our kids, we'll play in the Dane parking lot if we got to. We'll find a way to win. So that's got to be our mindset. And like I said, looking at it, you're going to play a lot of really well coached teams.
Definitely. So, well, Coach, I appreciate I'll turn over Howie, ask you a few before we get out of here. But a lot of information, learned a lot about North Sand Mountain's football program. To me, by talking to you, I think it's in good hands. I think the sky's the limit. I mean, I know you've got some good kids coming back. In year two, I know it's going to be a lot. You won 5 games last year, which, it's not something you're going to jump up and down and holler about. But it's, it's a brand new program, and you're trying to get its feet on the ground. And, and like you talked about, there was some more wins on the table, and you felt like that. But I'm sure your kids will learn from that, and there'll be a whole lot better football team come this fall.
Yes, sir. I hope so. Like I said, I think we've made the necessary changes and are going to continue. If you do the same old thing, you're going to get the same results. So we try to tell them it's not going to be the same. Hopefully not even close. Just continue to get better and continue to raise the intensity and get them prepared.
Coach, Coach, is it all right if I call you Coach Lip? Because a lot of people in the comments is calling you that.
Absolutely. That's what I'd prefer.
Coach Lip. All right.
Yes.
The only football question I really got is, you got an offensive and defensive coordinator. How much leeway or how much do you put in onto their plate as far as, do they do everything or do they got to run it through you first?
I mean, I wouldn't say they have to run it through me. We all coach both sides of the ball. So, I don't know if we're running it through anybody. We're just all kind of in it together. We're all on the headset. We make suggestions. I trust both of them. There are times where I may get on there and say, hey, let's try this right now. But just as easily, Coach could say, what do you think about this? And I trust them, and we're going to make decisions. Heck, I go back to that Cedar Bluff game. I've never called offense in my life. So we get to that overtime. I said, all right, Coach, we're going to go for 2, but I'm looking at Coach Schrader, hey, what do you want to run if we go for 2? Because I don't know. I don't know what I feel comfortable in. What do you feel comfortable with? So, I think we're all in it together. And like I said, we're all in the headset. So it's, I guess, running by all of us. But, I pretty much trust those guys to make the right calls. And as we're installing and stuff, it's all together. We sit in there on Sunday and discuss and throw ideas off of each other. And like I said, usually end up before we leave all feeling good about, what our plan is and everything. So,
So with you and Coach Schrader and Coach Hall, do y'all run things off each other like during a practice? Say, let's say Coach Schrader lines up in a certain formation, so he'd look at Coach Hall and say, "How would you attack that?" or vice versa.
At times, like I said, a lot of the offense, especially in practice, is scripted, and scripting your scout team against it. So it's not as much of that, but definitely see things as we go. And then when we're on defense, it's not as scripted. There are certain things on the script, but really trying to see all your different calls that you want to take into a game against certain things. And I mean, I think it's especially early in the week, kind of fluid. You're sitting there, looking at the reps and saying, all right, I like this, don't like that. Coach Hall, what do you think here? Hey, we may see something and I may go ask Coach Hall, I'm like, hey, are you worried about that? Because that scares the crap out of me. And he may be worried about it, or he may come to me and say that scares me. And I may be like, I think we all kind of work off each other in that way. Probably stuff I worry about at times, they're more calm, and then stuff they're worried about, I'm more calm. And we, like I said, just kind of bounce it off each other and try to come up with a good plan, especially by the end of the week, really by Tuesday or Wednesday. Once you get later in the week, I always say, past Wednesday, really past Tuesday, but every now and then Wednesday you may make some changes, but you don't want to add anything. You may take stuff out and tell our kids, I don't care if we got to go in the game with one call. I'd rather have one call that we feel confident in executing versus having 40 calls that we feel like are a good game plan, but we don't know if we can execute it. So as the week goes on, we try to maybe take some stuff away that we don't feel comfortable about, but try not to add in too much, especially as it gets late in the week, because it's just going to confuse us.
Are y'all kind of new school as far as signaling the plays in, or do y'all have someone running in and out?
We signaled in last year. Now some of that was helped by Keller, like I said, because he was so smart, got everybody lined up, told everybody what to do. We did huddle a lot of times though, so probably a little mix of both, because we were signaling it, but we were signaling it in the huddle. So kind of old school, slow it down. But also with Keller, we were able to get no huddle at times, and he could get direct traffic and get everybody lined up. I don't know exactly what will be this year. I guess it depends on how well our kids align and things like that. So, it's definitely something you get into and you have a plan of how you want to attack it. But I think you got to handle other stuff first. Like we got to be able to block, our schemes well. We got to be able to be physical and run the ball. All that's going to take precedent, getting those things down, before we're worried about can we do no huddle or tempo or things like that. Because, again, that's one of those things like, if we can do that, I don't care if we got to send a new kid in every play to, tell everybody to play. However we got to do it, we got to make sure we can execute whatever we're doing though first.
Enough X's and O's. Let's get to know Coach Lip a little bit.
Yes.
Everybody, it seems like everybody's kind of been warned about some of my questions. And
Coach Barbie told me that there were some surprises, but I don't know what you got. He didn't tell me what it was. So
let's get to know Coach Lip a little bit, the person away from the football and all that. So who's your favorite college team?
That's a complicated question. I grew up an Alabama fan, and then when I went and worked at UAB, I'll be honest, I can't stand Alabama football anymore. I probably cheer against them every week, just because of some of the stuff that went on when I was at UAB and some of the stuff that fans would say to you. People you grew up with will say stuff like, oh, y'all couldn't beat this town. It's like, but to them, it was all funny. And to you, you're like, man, we've worked, 90 hours this week trying to win a game. I really don't want to hear that from you. So just whoever, I'll cheer for UAB if they're on, not as hard as I used to, just because all the guys that were there when I was there are mostly gone. All the coaches and GAs, and then most of the players, or heck, all the players now are graduated and moved on. And then most of the time I just cheer for either people I worked with or people that just I've heard a little bit about and like, a lot of the guys I work with at JSU and stuff are at Oklahoma, so I'll cheer for them when they're playing. A couple of guys I work with are at Clemson, and then I obviously love Coach Sweeney. working in college football, you know, you work with a lot of guys that have worked around. And I've said before, I think Dabo Swinney's the only one that I've never heard any coach that worked for him say a single negative thing about him. I've heard fans say negative things, but like there's great coaches and that people have said great things about, but also I've worked with people that will say some negative stuff about him. I've never heard one person that worked for Dabo say a single negative thing about him. So obviously I respect that, and I'll cheer for them if they're playing. So I just kind of whoever. I mean, really, you know, Coach Poore was making fun of me the other day because I went golfing with him and I'm wearing a Tennessee hat. But I told him, I was like, I've got Alabama shirts, Tennessee hats, a Mississippi State cooler, a Florida State hat. So just really kind of whoever. And you know, if it's a good game, definitely like to tune in and watch. I think, you know, me and Coach Shoemaker last year went and watched Tennessee and Ohio State play in the first round of the playoffs. We drove up there and watched that. So that was kind of cool. So that's a long way of saying I really don't have a favorite college football team. In a lot of other sports, like I'll cheer for Alabama basketball a little bit. And my wife watches Alabama softball nonstop. So I'll watch that and cheer with her. So like I said, that's probably a terrible answer, but I just really don't have one.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed or not, but that guy sitting over there beside you, when you said the Tennessee hat, you know, he kind of perked up a little bit. He's a big Orange fan.
Really? Well, Coach Shoemaker's a huge Tennessee fan as well. So when he reeled me in to go to that game with him, I told him I wasn't going to go with a big Tennessee fan and wear a bunch of Ohio State stuff. So I had me a hat and a sweatshirt that I wore.
So, Coach Lip, what's your favorite food when you're out and about? What do you like to eat, or where would you like to eat at?
Steak's favorite food by far. I'm kind of picky, which is hard to be fat and picky, but I figure out a way to be fat and picky. But a steak, you know, a New York strip filet. Favorite restaurant is Kanomi. That's a little hibachi place in Trussville. It's about 10 minutes from my parents' house. That's my favorite. Now, I love going to Longhorn, Texas Roadhouse, anywhere where I can get a good steak. Is definitely my favorite food.
How's that steak got to be cooked?
Usually medium. I can't go medium rare. That gets me a little bit, but I don't want much past medium either.
So, what does Coach Lip enjoy listening to music wise?
A little bit of everything. We play a little bit of everything in the weight room as well. If I'm by myself, I'm probably gonna listen to country music most times, or some gospel music. Me and my wife are in the car. But the kids obviously listen to different stuff that I like. Heck, in the weight room the other day, I think we had Bob Seger Night Moves playing. So, and we had some Lil Wayne playing today when we were working out. So, really a little bit of anything. So, I got two little kids in the car most times. So I'm more just talking to them and answering questions than listening to music right now. So, I'm talking to Box, not Brooklyn yet.
Yeah. Right. You said something that I really liked while you were talking about being a fat guy. I'm a fat guy myself. The one of the things I like asking people is the pizza. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
I wouldn't eat it. If I'm gonna eat pineapple, it's gonna be by itself. But I'm kind of weird. I go plain. Cheese pizza. I like cheese pizza. You can't go wrong with a few ham slices. But I like to keep it simple. Sausage every now and then. So
you're not a meat lovers type person?
I'll eat a meat lovers pizza, but that's probably about as crazy as I'll get. I don't want no peppers and onions or mushrooms or anything like that on it.
So, superstition wise, or rituals or routines that we've been told about, is there any that you have to do before you take the field?
Not really. I used to be probably way more superstitious than I am now. I don't know if y'all watch The Office. To quote Michael Scott, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. Like I'll wear certain socks on game day every now and then, but having kids, it really, takes you out of that because, sometimes in the morning you're just trying to get everything and get out of the house. on Friday. So it hadn't been as bad lately. Now, if we're playing good and I wore a certain thing, I'll probably wear that again the next Friday. And if we lose and don't play well, I may not wear it again for a little while. So kind of big on that with our uniform combinations as well. If we go out there and play real bad in a certain uniform combination, I'm kind of weary about wearing it again, unless it's all black, because I'll wear that because it's easiest to clean. So we're just gonna have to play well when we wear that, because we're gonna keep wearing it.
And that's something I know the kids probably enjoy, wearing that all black if they're at North End.
Yes, so they enjoyed it. I think the weakest section, those black jerseys came in. I told them if we fundraise a certain amount, we'd get some. So they ended up coming in that week, and I think we wore them against section in Pleasant Valley, and looked really good. So we'll be able to have a little rotation between them and the blue jerseys next year.
Well, that's cool. How do you decide on your uniform combination?
A lot of times I'll ask the seniors. Like I said, towards early in the year it was pretty easy because we just had a blue jersey, so you were just deciding on the pants. And again, sometimes the weather makes the decision. If I think it's going to be muddy, we're going to wear the black jerseys. But if if everything looks good, or not the black jerseys, the black pants, if everything looks good, we'll kind of ask the seniors and try to rotate through of everything we wore. I think my personal favorite is the little light gray pants, but our kids like the black pants a lot, so we rotated through that. We have a pair of white pants that were given to us, and we wore them against Gaston last year. So I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to how we pick. We just kind of random. We usually pick on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and I don't know. Maybe this upcoming year I'll sit down and we'll kind of plan it game by game. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, my favorite combination of them, I like the blue jerseys and gray pants.
You said in the gray pants, you broke up a little bit.
Yeah, I like the blue jerseys and the gray pants. I think that looks the best to me.
Yes, sir. I like those. That's we had those down south at Clark County. We had the silver helmets, and we were royal blue as well. So I really like the silver helmets, and the silver blue and silver pants look is one of my favorite looks as well.
Kind of being new to the area and everything, but I know there's one place there that you've had to eat at least once or twice. Clouds Pizza. What's your favorite meal there at Clouds?
I switch it up a little bit. Every now and then I'll get a burger there. But the cheese sticks are obviously really good. And then I'll just get a sausage stromboli. I've got to where I'm not real big on just getting a pizza, just because we talked about pizza a minute ago. Probably my favorite place to go on vacation is New York. And, you go up there and eat the pizza up there. My favorite's the little place called Bleecker Street Pizza. You go eat the pizza up there, you won't want Domino's or anything like that. So Clouds is pretty good, but I usually stay away from the pizza. I'll get the cheese sticks or the stromboli. Is usually my order there. And also now we got the Blue Grill up here that's fantastic. That's probably one of my favorite places to eat up here, but they're only open later in the week. So
Okay, I didn't know about that place. Where's it located at?
I don't know the names of many roads up here, but I mean it's like 30 seconds from the school. Like you could walk from campus to it. It's like right off campus, kind of right behind the post office.
Okay, yeah.
A little building right there. So I think they're open Thursday, Friday, I think Saturday, and then maybe at lunch on Sunday. So it's really good if you get a chance to eat there. It's delicious.
Anytime we have anybody on from North Santa, I always bring up the Clouds, because Clouds Pizza, I know they're a big supporter of North Santa Mountain Sports.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. And we really enjoy going over there. Like I said, we've probably eaten there a lot, especially during football season, because you get busy and you don't want to cook. So I made a lot of stops there on the way home. So
Absolutely. Coach, we appreciate you coming on. Don't let this be the last time that you've been on here. We'd love to have you back on. Maybe right before the season starts, or maybe if you can find a little time while the season's going on, maybe hop on for a few minutes and tell us how everything's going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just let me know. I'm definitely down to get on and talk whenever. So,
and maybe by that time you've talked Coach Barbary into coming and join your coaching staff?
I don't think it's going to happen. I would love to, but I don't think it's going to happen. So he likes to be around, but he don't want to make the commitment because when he wants to go, he wants to better go. So
I understand that.
Hey, you
Yes.
talking about going to New York? Have you ever went up there with him since he's a big Yankees fan?
We haven't. We need to. You know, it's hard to go on vacation though when you got kids and they don't have kids. You know, so I know me and my wife and kids and my parents are going next spring break. We're gonna go and take the kids. So, but no, I need to get Barb up there. He goes and watches the Yankees every now and then. So, I know we've talked about it a few times and said we both love vacationing up there. So,
Phil, you got anything else?
Maybe. Yeah, I want to ask you one thing, Coach. A lot of staffs, when you're during football season, you've got a good cop, bad cop. Is that the way it is for you? Do sometimes you play bad cop, sometimes you play good cop?
I mean, I don't know if we got it designed. I probably do play the bad cop sometimes, but I don't know. We probably play a little bit of both. I just, I just try to be myself and probably get a little too frustrated at times and probably get a little too excited at times. I'm a pretty emotional guy. At early in the year at times, I was like, all right, I need to have this head coach demeanor on the sidelines and things like that. But, I've learned you try to be something you're not, have a certain demeanor. It just doesn't work well. So if you come to a game, you see me getting pretty fired up on the sidelines and things like that. So, sometimes I'm good cop, sometimes I'm bad cop. So a little bit of both, but definitely, like I said, just try to have a good time. And, we push the kids and try to put it in situations where you don't necessarily have to have a bad cop. We try to have a good time with it while we're working hard. And, they understand that, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is the standard we're going to do it to. And we've done a really good job in the weight room of that, this semester. And we can joke around with you, but this is the expectation, and we're going to keep going until we meet this expectation. So,
yeah. Well, I want to ask you this. I know, sometimes you do some things off the field to kind of sort of build some team camaraderie, or do you just kind of sort of, hey, you're mine here during football practice? Once football practice is over, it's your time. I want you guys to hang out, but I want to give you your freedom because, sometimes you can think too much about football.
Yes, sir. I mean, we do certain stuff. Like I said, our coaching staff does a lot of stuff together. But with the kids, like I think last summer we got a bunch of water slides out there and had a good time. We've talked about this year, me and Coach Ford were talking about it the other day, working out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on Thursdays this summer. We're going to try to see if we can't grill out at the end of every Thursday workout and have it ready for them when we finish the workout, maybe do hot dogs or burgers or maybe breakfast. And, so just stuff like that. A lot of times when we're up here after we finish, kids hang out and come sit on the couch in the office and hang out with us. So, I think a lot of that just kind of happens naturally, but we will do some team activities and things like that. But, I really think when you kind of build an environment that the kids want to be around and have a good time. And like I said, there's definitely that level of like, this is the expectation and this is how we're going to work. But, I think if you put clear expectations, kids most of the time want discipline and want to work hard and want to succeed. So I think you can do those things and, still have an environment where they feel comfortable coming around and having a good time. So I think some of that kind of facilitates itself. Well,
Coach, I want to thank you for coming on. I hope you have, I hope and pray you have a great season. And of course, don't forget now on Friday nights, you get come up with a big win. You need to call in the QSB scoreboard. We'd like to hear from you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Coach, we're not going to let you get going without giving a shout out. That's one of the things that we always make sure our guest does, give a shout out at the end of the show.
Oh, man.
To anybody, whether it's football related or not, just shout out to whoever.
Well, shout out to anybody watching, any of the coaches, fam. I don't know if you can see who's all watching. Is there a way to see?
No, not who's actually watching. Just the ones that put the comments on.
Shout out to my family, my wife. I think she's watching. My parents and all the coaches. I don't know. Football wise, I talked about Coach Luker a lot. I'll give Coach Luker a shout out. Like I said, probably everything I've learned about being a head coach was mostly through him, and probably don't do it near as good as he did, but definitely trying to learn and get there. So
Good deal, Coach. Looking forward
shout
to
out to Coach Little and Coach Mofer. I think they're on here. Some guys I work with down south. So if they're on here, I'm gonna give them a shout out as well.
Yeah. They made some comments earlier, so they were watching at one time. So anybody that's watching, if you will, give us a like, follow, and share on Facebook and YouTube as well. Help us out a little bit, get the word out. We're having all sorts of different coaches and players and everything. And maybe the next time you come on, we can work it out where you can bring a couple of players on as well.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Great deal. So, Coach, best of luck this upcoming season. I'm sure we'll see you at media days coming up here in just a few months. Football be here before you realize it, Coach.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So for Phil Harris, I'm the Howard Chaney, and Coach Jay Lipscomb of the North Side Mountain Thundering Herd. This is River City Media Beyond the Booth. Good night and God bless everybody.
Yes, sir. God bless.